Barron Trump has already lived two lives on the internet, and after making his grand entry into politics he's gone behind the curtains once again. You may remember him as a shy kid who reluctantly appeared in White House briefings, but today as an 18-year-old man, he's entangled in a bizarre double life. In one world, Republicans are trying to kickstart his political career, and on the internet, he's been crowned as a time traveler, but nobody knows his real story. Join us as we explore what Joe Rogan has revealed about Barron Trump. Why did Barron Trump disappear? Ivanka, Donald Trump Jr., Eric, and Tiffany. It's possible you've heard of these Trump siblings after they've become politically active once their father was in the White House. Donald Trump was the most controversial president in U.S. history, but his older children have never left his side. From supporting him through his legal battles to carrying out his election campaigns, they are everywhere. And there's one Trump sibling, 18-year-old, who rarely steps into the spotlight. His older step-siblings have been out and about in the GOP election race, but the youngest heir has shied away from politics. The obvious reason for his absence is his mother and third wife of Donald Trump, Melania. It's been speculated that the pair have simply put up a facade of being the perfect couple. After an FBI raid on his Florida home in 2022, it was rumored that they were sleeping in different rooms. Once Trump had gotten dragged into court for several legal troubles, Melania exclusively began to focus on her son, Barron. But to be fair, the youngest Trump has been away from the spotlight since the beginning of his father's presidency. Melania has talked about prioritizing her son's upbringing and mental well-being, and when you add in a father like Donald Trump, you're bound to be dragged into one issue or another. The important question to ask is why Barron has become a public matter of interest. His father's not in office, and the teenager himself has barely had a social media presence, so then why are personalities like Joe Rogan talking about him in their podcasts? And how come conspiracy theory YouTubers have been making countless videos about him? Well, you're about to find out. There's always been public interest in the youngest Trump, however, Melania has gone to great lengths to protect his privacy. Sources close to the family revealed that the mother was worried about the public's disapproval of Donald Trump that might fall on her son, and to be fair, the concerns are not exaggerated. When Trump got into the presidential office in 2016, Barron suffered ruthless bullying and online trolling for his nonchalant and casual behavior. The world was used to seeing Obama's very sophisticated daughters, who looked posh and formal whenever they were with their father, and Barron was in a league of his own. Most of the time, he appeared non-serious in certain media events alongside his dad, and one time he even went wearing shorts. The relentless bullying that he faced online even made other presidential children like Chelsea Clinton come to his defense. In a tweet, she said it was high time that everyone left Barron alone and was able to keep his life private. The attacks didn't stop, though. A popular meme chain on the internet chastised Barron for looking uninterested in his father's work, and believe it or not, there are speculations that he might be some alien species living with the Trump family. Barron was barely 10 years old when all of this relentless bullying began, and that would cause him to step back from public life for good. The tide has turned, though. The U.S. elections draw closer, and the youngest Trump has been seen making strides alongside his father, particularly within the GOP hub of Florida. The 18-year-old may be trying to launch his political career, or perhaps he's just helping his father with a campaign. Or maybe there's a third and more shocking possibility that Barron Trump is trying to dispel the rumors about him that will leave you confused and shocked. Barron Trump becomes a media highlight. We'll first talk about how Barron became a major subject of Donald Trump and his string of legal battles. Everything comes down to hush money. People of the State of New York versus Donald Trump is an active criminal trial that accuses the former president of 34 felony charges. Trump is accused of falsifying business records with intent to commit or conceal crimes, and if the former president is convicted, he could spend up to 20 years in prison. The only thing that the district attorney needs to do is prove 5 out of the 34 charges. There's no doubt that Trump has money, but in 2006 he spent a romantic night with an adult movie star by the name of Stormy Daniels and used his business money to pay her off in exchange for her silence. The event is said to have taken place when Trump was on television hosting The Apprentice. According to the star, she had met Donald Trump at a golf tournament in Nevada, and somehow both of them ended up in the president's penthouse at Harrah's Lake Tahoe at a celebrity golf championship. And you're working for Wicked as a sort of ambassador for the company, and he's there. He was there. Donald Trump was there. None of this would have been a problem if Trump hadn't been married to Melania when the alleged interaction between him and Stormy occurred. It was around that time that Melania wasn't living there, so she had no idea who was meeting with her husband in her absence. And to make matters even worse, she was pregnant with Barron at the time. This is why it's been speculated that when Stormy broke the story of receiving checks from the former president for her silence, Melania's marriage fell apart. To be fair, though, rumors of Trump having cheated on his wives have lasted for quite a long time. In 2011, when Barron was 5 years old, Trump's lawyer Michael Cohen had tried his best to bury the story. He was even accused of buying entire magazines to keep his client safe. In the trial proceedings, it would be revealed that Cohen had written checks for up to $420,000 to keep the Trump name clean, and the money came from falsified records. Now, there's no need to drag Barron into the drama. His name has barely been spoken in any of the trials until Trump did it himself. His name came up in the Manhattan hush money trial when his father requested to skip court on May 17 for a special purpose, and after keeping his young son out of the public light, he admitted that he wished to attend Barron's high school graduation like any other father would want to. Before the judge could rule, Trump had already posted on his social media that the judge had prohibited him from attending his son's graduation, which actually wasn't true, as the decision was still in process. Despite looking forward to a critical court day, the judge granted Trump's request. It was quite mundane and understanding, but several online posts had accused the former president of using his son as a scapegoat to buy his lawyer some more time. Trump had asked to skip court the day right after his former fixer and right-hand man Michael Cohen had testified for 3 days straight. Not to mention, if Trump's felony charges come out to be true, the timeline of his extramarital affairs could break his bond with his son forever. Barron's controversial life, despite every issue that has gone down in court, Trump was in the front seat for his son's graduation. He posted a photo of Barron collecting his diploma on his social media, and it isn't the first time when Barron's education has become a public highlight. You may not know, but in the first year of Trump's presidency, his wife and youngest son didn't choose to live in the White House. From 2016 to 2017, the tabloids ran stories about Melania getting divorced from her husband and not wanting to raise her son in the White House where children have to adhere to very strict rules. The Trump family had maintained that Melania had simply chosen to stay behind in New York for her son's education. When Trump won the presidency, Barron was 10 years old and was enrolled in an elite school, and before moving into the White House, he wanted to complete the school year. He and Melania moved to Washington, D.C., in June of 2017, and all seemed well until the president made statements about his son being reluctant to come to the White House because he loved his life in New York City. It was revealed that Barron was scared of a public life, and his fears weren't exactly irrational. As the first son, his life changed, and the online trolling made it even worse. Eventually, he felt better about the move, and Trump would even remark that Barron was great in school, had lots of great friends, and he was a young boy who was strong and smart and gets it. While living in the White House, Barron attended St. Andrew's Episcopal School in Potomac, Maryland, a posh school in a posh area, but he was in the class of 2024. And his dad's run in the White House ended 4 years prior. Once again, he changed cities and schools, and in Florida, while living at Mar-a-Lago, he was enrolled at Oxbridge, and his school isn't far away from the $325 million US property that the Trump family calls home. Even though Barron went to a school that was founded by William Koch, there's been speculation about the purpose of his education. It seems as though he may not want to join politics, but his education would suggest otherwise. You'll not be surprised to know that the teenager has come under fire for his extremely exclusive education, and once again, the online trolling had to do with his father. While Trump was in the Oval Office, he only paid $750 in federal income tax, which you know is much lower than other presidents who didn't have the Trump-like money. His entire presidency was under fire for never producing tax records, which is another practice that US presidents follow. And in the midst of it all, when he said that he was paying for his youngest son's expensive education, the critics remarked that it wasn't much for the former president. The lack of state funding for public schools during the pandemic left many children out of school for the better part of 2020, but Barron went to school every day in a place with very limited enrollment. Despite Trump's taxes, though, we have to give credit where it's due. Since 2020, Melania's husband announced that he had tested positive for the virus, which started an entire controversy about him hiding his illness, but Melania had the virus too, and Barron caught it after both of his parents had recovered. The entire family stayed together during this challenging time, and Melania was very transparent about their health. She revealed that the child didn't show any symptoms and recovered quickly. But while Barron was recovering from illness, a series of YouTube videos had emerged, speculating that he was living a double life. The time travel theory. If you're not familiar with the Trump time travel theory, let us explain it to you in simple words. In 2017, YouTubers were convinced that the former president and his youngest son were time travelers. The theory starts with a pair of books called Barron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey and The Last President, written by an American author, Ingersoll Lockwood, in the late 1800s. In the story, the protagonist is a young boy named Barron Trump, who is given a magical time travel book by the name of Don and embarks on a series of adventures in New York. The setting of the book is Trump Castle, and believe it or not, the story starts in Russia. This, paired with Donald Trump's much-debated relationships with the Russian government, made people wonder if this was some bizarre time travel story. In the book, the protagonist can see the future, and that's how he travels through time. You won't be shocked to know that Trump has some very elaborate prophecies. You must be familiar with his 2016 presidential campaign slogan, "Make America Great Again," which was actually popularized by Ronald Reagan. As a kid, Trump loved Reagan and said that he wanted to be like him, and eventually, the former president's slogan became, "Keep America Great." Reagan had hoped for the same thing when he stepped into politics, and to this day, is held in very high regard for his foreign policy, but you'll be shocked to know how Barron got involved in this. The theory of time travel has an entire series of YouTube videos on it. You won't be surprised to know that a few years ago, when the world was on lockdown, the world had gone crazy, and people spent most of their time on the internet and social media. Several YouTubers had begun claiming that Trump had read the book as a child and predicted his way into the presidency. Not to mention that while the title of the book is Barron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey, in reality, Trump's youngest son spells his name with one R, and the double R theory goes back to Baron William Trump, a Scottish ancestor of Trump who had traveled the world back in the day. A few videos even speculated that Barron could have been a time traveler, but the bizarre theory hasn't made the former president's son a controversial subject. To this day, Melania and Donald are quite critical of anyone who puts their son in the limelight. It was in 2019 when Barron came under a firestorm of hate and his parents defended him in a heartbeat. If you recall, back in the day, Trump had several legal challenges, including his impeachment trials. In one of the hearings, law professor Pamela Karlin was asked to testify against the former president, and during her testimony, she made a critical remark about the first son. She said that, while Donald Trump could name his son Barron, he could never make him a baron. The White House condemned the remark and said that it was inappropriate for an adult law professor to make fun of a child on national television. Melania was even angrier, tweeting that a minor should be kept out of politics, and she even used a hashtag to bring awareness to online bullying. It was an extremely rare moment when the former First Lady expressed her discontent with politics, but you may not know how Barron became involved in something completely crazy. Over the past few years, Barron has once again stepped back from the spotlight, and he might have disappeared once again, but before that happens, let's take a look at how he managed to shut down the time travel theory. Barron Trump's double life. Barron Trump is barely 18 years old, and with that comes very limited social media access, and he doesn't have the same level of online presence as his half-siblings. But in 2020, when the former first son was recovering from the virus, a bizarre series of YouTube videos had emerged. People believed that Barron was actually a time traveler and had come to warn the future of some kind of political disaster. You may know that the US elections that year had become one of the most widely debated topics, and once Biden won, Trump was accused of election rigging. But instead of waiting for court proceedings, a bizarre video had emerged online, claiming that Barron was a time traveler and had come to warn the future of his father's loss in the upcoming elections. When we say bizarre, it's for good reason. While the former president's youngest son was recovering from illness, YouTubers were claiming that he was traveling in time, and Trump himself was a part of it. The videos showed how Donald Trump was the man who gave Barron the book, and he had traveled to a series of alternative realities where Trump was still the president. The book, however, was never widely acknowledged, but it made its way into news headlines when Trump's legal troubles started. As the former president went through various impeachments and legal challenges, many people began saying that the timeline had been altered because Barron had disappeared. He didn't make any public appearances at the time, and in 2020, while recovering from illness, he had begun his private life once again. It took almost 3 years for the youngest Trump to shut down this time travel theory. Last year, when Donald Trump announced his run for the 2024 elections, Barron was seen by his side once again. He attended his father's campaigns in Florida, and he was even seen alongside his siblings. Many GOP followers have said that the former president is grooming his youngest child for a political career. The US elections are in full swing, and Barron has been by his father's side through all of it. He's been seen at every campaign in his support, and while he has no online presence, his public appearances have dispelled the rumors. You won't be surprised to know that the idea of time travel for the youngest Trump hasn't completely died down. It's often joked about on social media, but the young Trump has simply decided to show his public support for his father and his legal battles. So while the idea of a time-traveling president is quite charming, Barron has completely shut down the theory by simply staying close to his family. What's next for the youngest Trump? Barron Trump may have been a recluse, but the boy is certainly growing into his own. You may remember him as the White House boy who loved to wear shorts, but today he stands taller than his father. In a campaign speech, Donald Trump even remarked that his son was 6 feet 7 inches tall. He said that he had a beautiful son who was growing up and that the first son was actually a good athlete. The future of Barron Trump is actually a bit uncertain, as the 18-year-old may choose to join politics, but it seems as though he just wants to support his family. A few sources close to the Trumps have said that while the entire Trump family wants Barron to stay in the spotlight and support his father, Melania has prioritized his education and mental health. As Trump runs for the presidency once again, Barron may become a public figure once again, but this time he's more prepared. His mother and father have gone to great lengths to make sure that his life remains private, and we can see why. He isn't 10 years old anymore, but Barron still gets relentlessly bullied online. People criticize him for his public appearances, his father's legal troubles, and his exclusive education. At the end of the day, though, Barron Trump has become a public interest, and everyone has their eyes on the first son. When it comes to politics, He may join it in the future, but for now, the 18-year-old has become a highlight once again. Now that we know the reality behind Barron Trump and his reclusive nature, what do you think the youngest Trump will do in the future? Do you think he may join politics like his family, or will he stay out of it forever? Let us know in the comments below.